Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and what I'm going to do is talk about Mercury today. It moved into the sign of Aquarius, and it's at 1 degree. You can see on this chart here, if I get my marker here, you can see it's at 1 degree of Aquarius, and we know that a few weeks ago we had Jupiter and Saturn conjunct at 0 degrees, and Jupiter moves quite speedily in the respect that it takes 12 years to go around the chart, but it takes a year to go through a sign. Saturn takes about 29 years all the way through the chart, but these planets will go retrograde around May time. So things keep moving and shifting. And what we've got with this Mercury that I'm focusing on is that is January the 30th. It's going to go retrograde at 26 degrees, and then it will go direct on February the 21st at 11 degrees. So you want to look where that is in your chart. And for me, it's going to be in my 11th house. And I think that if you look at your own chart, if you you can either go to AstroSeek here, or you can go to astro.com if you don't know, but what you're looking for on your chart, you need your rising sign. And the rising sign basically is going to show you what house, I'm 27 degrees Scorpio as an example. So for me, it's in my 11th house, and it's going to be different depending on that. With this chart, before I jump into the Mercury aspect of deeper understanding, we've got the sun currently sextile to Neptune. So you can see the sun here, that's a sextile. And this is where we can be a bit sentimental, and a little bit of harmony we may be experiencing. And it's where, charitable and being creative as well. The sun is conjunct Pluto, and that's applying. So that means the sun is moving. If you see the sun here, 19 degrees of Capricorn, it's moving on in to Pluto. So that will conjunct 19, 20, 21, 22, 20, in 5 days. It's going to conjunct. And when it conjuncts, it's already in that aspect anyway, but it's quite deep, and it may bring unexpected and significant changes as that happens. And also it's about, in the 10th house, it's to do with the public eye. It's also can be to do with our spiritual study and professional psychoanalysis, and looking inward and looking deep as well. And it's also because Pluto rules Scorpio, so that's where that aspect comes in. The conjunction aspect is about concealed power and secrets that are being held as well, and clearly we can see a lot of that going on in the world. And it's where we can have a great desire to succeed at this time, collectively or individually, as it is in our chart, as it will aspect other things in our chart if you understand astrology. The moon moves quite quickly, but it is, very important as well. It's sextile to Mercury, sextile to Saturn, and sextile to Pluto. So this is current. If you look at the moon here, it's sextile to these planets here. And then we've got Mercury square Mars, and we can see that with what's gone on in the States the last few days, what happened was that Mars, on the day of the Capitol building and whatever went on there, Mars hit 1 degree, or it moved in, it was 0 degrees of Taurus. So that's clearly had an effect, because that was for months, it was in the sign of Aries because it went retrograde there. So when it went forward, it's not surprising that we had that big shift going on of people acting in a different way, in a different mood. We've got Mercury square to Mars. So this is where we can have impatience and be quarrelsome. And it's where we can, have strong personalities as well. And that, not having other people, sort of, we're thinking more about ourselves, basically. With the Mars, it's more our thinking is quick, and it can be about wanting to persuade others, and it's where we can be arrogant also. So we have to watch out for this, because basically we run on our feelings. If we really think about this, we feel something, and this is the whole thing with Mercury, the feelings that we have, and then we will act based on our feelings. And things will spark us, we'll look at something, see something, and that will make us think something. So Mercury is really important in the chart. My Mercury is in my 6th house, conjunct a few planets I have. So you can look where your Mercury is as well. again for when it goes retrograde, your natal Mercury to the point as well. We've got Mercury also conjunct Saturn. Mercury is squaring Uranus. So Mercury is really busy at the moment. Mercury conjunct Saturn can make us quite serious and conservative with our mental process. And it's where we don't trust our own abilities and imagination. And we might have difficulty expressing ourselves and feeling, that we have a sense of self that's, for detail. It's where we have a sense of self of detail. That hopefully that makes sense. We've got Mercury, Venus is trine to Mars, and Venus is trine to Uranus, and that's quite nice for us at the moment. That Venus is trining here. We've got to the Mars, and also that would mean where we can be considerate and kind, and that's quite good for us at this time with what's going on. And the Venus trine to Uranus is harmonious, and it's a change and initiative with our friends, being where we're emotionally independent, and we basically are not we're just there may be surprises, but there's we're meeting each other's needs with that there, and it's a good harmonious aspect. Mars square Jupiter, Mars square Saturn. So we can see, I could go on, but I think I need to jump into Mercury because I'm a Gemini and I like to follow through eventually. So let's see. Right. So I'm going to read a bit of something that I made some notes earlier. So this Mercury, I'm going to change over to my solar fire and show you the emanated page. So this is the chart of today. And the beautiful thing with solar fire, if I go with hours, we get to move this chart. So if you look at the moon, which is the quickest moving thing in astrology, the moon, which is our ego and our sense of self in our feeling space, and it's to do with mother. It rules the sign of Cancer. So the moon is our inner world, and if we see it's at 2 degrees in Sagittarius right now, and it will be there for 2.5 days. So if we go ahead by hours, I'm going to go, let's say 6 hours ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got this, you can see that it's moved there, and we can see on this chart there is a lot of tension flying around with these squares, and we've also still got Neptune, which is square the nodes, which is making our nodes, N-O-D-E-S, making our we're trying to figure something out because we're in delusion as well, and we're also a bit lost on where the way forward is, because the nodes, the past life, and the south node is past and the north node is future. So when we have a square to the nodes, we're flip-flopping back and forth trying to figure something out. And Neptune is also beyond this realm. Neptune also covers the virus. It covered Black Lives Matter as well, the not seen, what's not seen. So things that go on that are not seen beyond this realm, in the sense that, when we look at things like racism, that's not generally seen. The COVID is something that we can't see. So Neptune is beyond what we can see. It's also our sleep state as well, when we're sleeping at night, another realm that we go into. Now, looking at this Mercury up here, this is today. Mercury is about what's to do with our human consciousness, and it's where we get linear structure. And everything connects to something else. So everything connects to something else. So if I look, I've got a microphone in front of me, but that connects to my computer. And then my computer is connecting me to, making this video, being able to, communicate. So we can see that also, if we look at the sky and the planets, like the sky connects to the planets and it connects to the moon, and the air that we breathe, and there's all these different connections. And then Earth connects to the grass and the flowers. So everything connects to something. And as we speak to people, there are things, we don't know everything. So as we talk to people, we're always going to come up with something new. Somebody might say, it happened to me today, somebody sent me an email and it made me think of something, quite out there that I'd not thought of before. So we don't know what we're going to be thinking next. This is the beauty of being human. We have, our named things, like if archetypes and imprints. So if I say to you like Superman, you know what I'm talking about. If I say Father Christmas, we all know. So, all over the world, people will know certain things regardless of the language that we speak. And Mercury provides intellectual order, and it's also the nature of our existence and how we ask questions. So, and then also, our subjective reality, and also linear rational thought is linked with the left brain and Mercury. So that it's linear. It's like, mathematics and such, like how what do I need to get for my shopping today? And we make a list and etc. So it's intuitive thought and non-rational, non-linear is to do with Jupiter. So that's worth knowing, that the intuitive thinking is Jupiter, but it's also, the higher realms, and also the ruler of Sagittarius, which is fascinating, that Jupiter is, rules Sagittarius, and with the Mercury, it's Gemini, and it's also Virgo that it covers. And we've got an axis there of, when we look at, I'll explain in a minute, actually, I'll go there with the Pisces thing. So, we also collect information and data from the external environment, and also the collection of information and data continually ignites more thought and perceptions, which ultimately leads to the creation of whole thought, and how whole thoughts are ultimately connected to other thoughts to create an intellectual whole, an organized mental whole that generates our mental understandings of our experience called life. And that was said by Jeff Wolf Green. It's about connecting parts, and it's inner and external stimuli. And, this is what we call language. So with Uranian, the Uranian aspect, if we look that Mercury is actually in the sign of Aquarius, and the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And with Uranian, the thinking, it's like the light bulb, the genius. It's our long-term memory imprints, and it's our higher mind. It's thoughts that are way ahead of time. So, we might think something, and then, years later we'll go, oh my God, I thought that, years ago. And so, and then Gemini, Mercury, Virgo. So we have Gemini that covers Mercury and Virgo together. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. And this is the basis of our perceptions, the basis of our intellectual thought process. And it's the very nature of communication itself. It's ongoing learning experience. And when we communicate with someone else, more than often than not, we are going to hear something that we have not thought about ourselves. And again, that's Jeff Wolf Green. So communication ignites internal stimuli, manifesting as perceptions and thoughts. And, looking at when I, with the idea of evolutionary astrology, we've also got that the Jupiter is also the right brain. That's if we look at Sagittarius again, and then the polarity of Sagittarius is Gemini. So we have Sagittarius, Gemini, and Jupiter rules. So the higher mind, or the more the mind of non-linear. And then we've got the idea that we've got the axis of Virgo. If you look at Virgo, the axis of Virgo, let's take Virgo, and we take Pisces. So Pisces is here and Virgo is here. So if we take the Mercury rules Virgo, then we can see the polarity is Pisces. So we can get lost and not want to think, we might not like what somebody says, so we'll just ignore it. And also when we think the ruler of Pisces is Neptune. So it really goes deep. We can go so deep into a chart. And then with the Gemini idea, we've got Sagittarius, and then the ruler is Jupiter. The ruler of Gemini is Mercury. So we're, all over the place with this. So with Gemini, and we'll look at what this is going to do in the sign of Aquarius. But with Gemini, what we're looking at, it is basically about communication. It's about our learning and writing, speaking. It's left brain, information, duality. It's where we're scattered, superficial. It can be where we're cynical, lies, the trickster, opinion, our logic. It's to do with siblings and relatives, and marketing and instability, the ever-changing, short-term memory. And it can be our intellectual doubt as well, our questioning. And when we look at the Virgo aspect, we've got Virgo aspect to here. We've got inferiority, being of service. It's, where we can have shame, perfectionism, our place in society, self-improvement, and, health and its routines and crises. It's our healing, discernment. But finally, not finally either, probably, we'll go a bit further on this, but I would say that, so with the Aquarius, what are we really looking at here? We're looking at Aquarius is about, the ruler of Uranus. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. And what we have is that we've got liberation from conditioning, individuality, individuation. We have rebellion, and we've seen a bit of that going on. That's interesting as well, that Mars moved in here. Let's go back a couple of days and see what happened there. So if we go back 2 days, 48 hours, Mercury was 29 degrees and it was going to move in, and we had 0 degrees there. So we can see the connection possibly of the idea of what took place in the USA a couple of days ago. With the liberation from conditioning, alienation, hopes and ideals. It's our long-term memory, the anarchist tribe community, where we fragment, and trauma. And clearly a lot of what's showing up, is when people are in rebellion, it's because they were being traumatized, or we feel trauma and we feel splitting, and it's the mass trauma. And so that it was shocking what happened, and there's a lot of projection, a lot of hyperactivity, and it's revolutionary. So this is fascinating that this is going to go, it's going to basically be going retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So we have something to figure out, and that's going to be going on. It's going to go to the 26th to the 11th of February, and it's going to be there probably until the end of February. We'll have a look at that. And then let's see, I've got a book, Planets in Transit by Robert Hand. I'll put the link in the book. Mercury in 11, so 11th house is Aquarius. And Mercury in this transit inclines you to think about your goals and expectations in life. It's where you examine your ideals to find out exactly how well they have served you and to what extent you have attained them. You should also think about whether your goals are really your own, or whether they are in part other people's goals that you have adopted for yourself. In the latter case, decide whether these goals are appropriate for you. So we could look at something like, deciding how we're going to look after our health right now. Are we going to follow what everybody else is doing? Are we going to just go along with what we're being told, or are we going to make up our own mind? So this is also the house of groups and ideals, standards, and at the house of your position in groups generally. It's where we should examine our attitudes towards groups, which we need to do. At this time, we need to have more verbal and intellectual exchanges with our friends and with other groups that we are associated with. It's where we get to talk over our problems with our friends. This will be especially helpful at this time. So if you're going through any depression or hardship in the lockdown, being alone, there are people out there. Also with me, you can have your chart read, and I also look at complex PTSD trauma. I'm very well versed, read up in that through doing my own inner work. Here it goes on to say, but keep in mind that talking things over with friends cannot free you from prejudices and preconceptions that are held by the entire group. Another characteristic of this going through Aquarius is that we may encounter younger people in our immediate circle of friends, which gives us a new and freer point of view. This is a time of increased communication and social interaction. So, a lot of the younger people I've not seen many of them have a say in what's going on. Free speech has been quite difficult at the moment because, we're probably being, we're just having to go along with the way things are. We don't know what's going on ultimately, but it's all going to come to fruition. Mercury in Aquarius as well, from another brilliant book I've got, which is Jan Spiller and Karen McCoy's Spiritual Astrology. It's where we, losing mental objectivity. Mercury in Aquarius, it's when, our asleep state and the fear can be with this Mercury in Aquarius. So if we're sort of not quite, awake, or we're not wanting to wake up, we've got some choice in this as we move through. With wisdom, the Aquarius rational mind can become cold and detached from feelings or empathetic intuition. This leads to losing sensitivity to others in communication. By immersing yourselves in non-judgmental objectivity, you can inadvertently alienate others in a brittle manner. There can be a fear of losing. A detached concept of universal love can bring on abstract and thoughtless retorts to the personal communication of others. And this may keep us at a distance from each other. So we need to get to the higher octave of this Mercury in the sign of Aquarius, because it's there for a long time. So the conscious expression of that Mercury in the sign of Aquarius is by focusing on making a personal connection with others. We become aware of their sensitivities, recognizing the individuality in others enables us to apply the idea of universal love. We're able to establish a connection for communication, which then allows us to share in unique ways of perceiving life. This is done by opening yourself to experience mental empathy with others. You experience ease in getting your point across when your ability for objective communication is tempered by both an awareness of the point of view of others and their emotional sensitivities. So I think the most important thing at this time is that none of us know, the absolute truth. So we have to be sensitive with each other. We don't have to be at war with those close to us and argumentative, but sometimes we're impulsive and we've got stuff going on in our own chart that will reflect difficulties that we're having, and we're all having difficulty in one way or another at the moment through our moments and hours as time goes by. So leading up to the inauguration, I'm going to go 9th of January. We're going to go 10, 11, and this is the chart of the 20th of January 2021. And we've got these squares going on. The moon's involved, Uranus, Mars conjunct, and Lilith, the shadow, all square to all of these planets up here, which is Pluto, the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury will be trining the North Node that day. That's probably a good thing. And then we've got a trine from Venus to Uranus. So, we just see how this plays out. And we will have this long term, the Pluto, which is square to Eris, Eris. She takes, goddess of discord, takes 560 years to move around the chart. So as Pluto moves off, it will take time, but Pluto in 2023, 2024 will be moving off of Eris here. So, we've got a way to go, and we need to just, check in with our own selves and ground ourselves, because with this energy up here of Aquarius, we can be very heady. So a lot of grounding and breathing work, and, maybe hot baths and salt baths and whatever you need to do to ground. It's like start a practice. I've decided I've been doing something the last few days, so we all need to do something. Okay, that's it for today. Catch you later. Book a session with me if you'd like to. I can dig on your chart with you. Catch you later.